Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for Wednesday's edition of Alaska Weather. Up first here, the satellite imagery showing several surges of moisture rolling into the southeast coast here and more out to the west with low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska, drying out here over Kodiak Island, and a lot of kind of disorganized clouds across the interior with areas of light snow, but the snow becomes more continuous along this band, which is more organized here, and that's going to be continuing to push eastward here over the next 24 hours. And then areas of light snow also here occurring over northern Cook Inlet and south central Alaska. Out to the west, we've got cold air coming southward here out of the Arctic, pushing all the way down to the eastern Aleutians. Snow showers falling there today along the Alaska Peninsula, and snow also for the Pribilofs. And then out to the west, huge cloud shield with the next big storm that's already spreading warm air into the western Aleutians, with the snow changing over to rain this afternoon and winds gusting 40 to 60 miles per hour. Otherwise, you can see the cold air coming southeastward here, and the whole pattern shifting east. So this mass of cold air tomorrow will shift in, or over the next couple of days will shift into the interior. On the chart, rain and snow, or rain and snow showers here across the southeast coast. Rain or snow depending on your elevation, latitude, and your proximity to the Pacific. But we had moisture again, light snow into the Cook Inlet south central area, scattered snow showers or areas of light snow up into the interior, and then that more extensive snow pattern out here to the west associated with that 994 millibar low over eastern Norton Sound. And a little bit of wind, not too bad, really still gusting 35 to 50 miles an hour there, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, but skies are clear in that area. Then that cold air picks up the moisture over the more open water, and you've got snow down to St. Lawrence Island, lots of snow showers down to the Pribilofs. And Arctic coast, not too bad today, generally below zero, but there was a little bit of light snow, flurries of fog around the Barrow area. And then narrow high pressure out here to the west. And then that big storm, the first center here, 983 millibars, and this warm front spreading the moisture into the Aleutians today with warming temperatures, changing it over to rain. We'll see tonight that low center actually dissipates. This one comes up by about 3 a.m. tomorrow morning, a little bit stronger. Tight gradient here across the Aleutians, warm air surging in across the southwest Bering Sea. And that should maybe, possibly spread some light snow into the eastern Aleutians there. And you're kind of now on the southern edge of the rainfall there for the Adak and Atka area. Otherwise, still carry some snow showers here, definitely along the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. In this area, snow shifting eastward. The main band now up to the western Alaska Range, covering the Kuskokwim Valley. Another band back down toward Bethel. And areas of light snow continue here for south central Alaska tonight. That becomes more extensive and more continuous, maybe a little heavier as you move north in the valley. And light snow all across the central Tanana Valley westward, up across the Koyukuk, Yukon Flats, Kobuk Valley, all the way out to the northwest coast and Kotzebue Sound. And still some light snow and fog going on, but winds starting to drop off now here around St. Lawrence Island. And not too bad up there along the North Slope and Arctic coast with light winds. And yet another surge of moisture associated with the trough again keeps snow, mainly higher elevations or the eastern areas there, and a mixture right along the coastline. Low pressure, Prince William Sound, periods of light snow there, North Gulf Coast, and again that continuing here, northern Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula. drying out here, northwest winds coming into Kodiak Island. And looks like tonight most of the showers will end up off to the southeast. And this will stay hung up over the Aleutian Range at least through most of tonight. And then going ahead to tomorrow, we'll see everything shifts eastward. Low pressure now in the Prince William Sound area, and this trough pushing eastward. So periods of light snow again continuing for the North Gulf Coast, and also for the Susitna Valley through Knik Arm down into the Anchorage area, on down toward Kenai and the Kenai, or the Kenai on the Kenai Peninsula, and in toward Seldovia and Homer. Clearing out rapidly behind this tomorrow afternoon, so western Cook Inlet to the Alaska Range will become clear, and gusty winds here, southern Cook Inlet down across Kodiak Island, especially Kamishak Bay and the Barrens, should pick up a pretty good burst of northwest winds. Colder and a lot less precipitation with some clearing out here in the west, but lingering light snow up along the southern slopes of the Brooks Range, Kobuk, Koyukuk Valley areas on across the Yukon. And looks like a few less showers going on tomorrow there across the southeast coast. Out to the west, big storm. Again, storm force winds, western Aleutians, actually storm force also for the central Aleutian areas with gales over to the Fox Islands. Warm air, rain to the Pribilof Islands, and it looks like rain for the Alaska Peninsula. Mixture here along the southwest coast with temperatures going up, and winds start to increase there around St. Lawrence Island, and you'll probably get into some blowing snow conditions tomorrow evening. And then for Thursday, that front pushes eastward here. The low center tracks northward into the Russian Far East, and look for a mixed precipitation to start. It may not be in the form of rain Thursday afternoon as far north as what I have it drawn here, but there is a good surge of warm air coming in, so pretty good chance of snow becoming mixed precipitation, changing to rain Thursday afternoon into Kodiak Island. Could become mixed here over northern Cook Inlet with rain down to the south, but north in the cold air, snow northern Susitna Valley, Tanana Valley, and back all the way to the western Arctic coast. And a big increase in the winds through here as well, so look for possible near blizzard conditions developing there depending on how much snow falls, with a big increase in the winds. Otherwise, looks like storm force southwest winds into St. Lawrence Island, and then that low center pulls a big surge of Arctic air southward back to the west, and then it pushes eastward here. So we've got snowfall levels all the way down to sea level coming back in across the central Aleutian areas, and it looks like for Thursday night and Friday this area won't advance all the way to the coast. Looks like it's going to kind of shift up to the northeast and dissipate a little bit, but the entire trough will kind of work over the top of a ridge and bring a chance of snow back in across interior Alaska. Otherwise, for the southeast coast, a few lingering showers, but not much at all. Look for some partial clearing, especially from about Wrangell-Petersburg on down to Dixon Entrance. High pressure now over the eastern Copper River Basin, but clouds on the increase, as well as moisture throughout the day. Winds increasing on the central and western Arctic coast as well. Temperatures across the Panhandle this afternoon, mostly in the 30s, ranging from 36 at Ketchikan to 32 at Skagway. Juneau had 37, mid-30s North Gulf Coast, and mid-20s here for northern Cook Inlet. That 24 is at Palmer, 26 Kenai, 33 both at Seward and Homer, 4 degrees there at Gulkana, and up to the north, Fairbanks at 4 below zero with 7 above up at Tanana, and a little farther north there's Fort Yukon at 1 above, but Anatuvik 24 below this afternoon, but Bettles in the clouds there with some snow, 3 above zero. Same thing at Ambler. Got a 0 degree temperature at Kivalina, and Arctic Coast North Slope all below zero, minus 27 at Kaktovik, minus 18 at Point Lay, and the Kotzebue Sound area mostly 10 to 15 degrees, about the same across the Seward Peninsula with 12 at Nome, 10 degrees, big cool down there at Savunga, and single numbers here for the Kuskokwim Valley, down to Sleepmute 19, Bethel 16 out at Amonic, and also 19 there at Meteorologists. Out to the west, we've got upper 30s here, mid to upper 30s across all of the Aleutians, and that extends up the Alaska Peninsula, dropping down to 32 at King Salmon, with 24 Cape Newenham, 32 in Kodiak this afternoon, and for the lows tonight, mid-20s in the forecast across Kodiak Island. Otherwise, teens here, south central Alaska, with 20s down right along the coast, lower 30s for the Panhandle, and below zero, a little below zero for the Copper River Basin, but areas 0 to 15 below through the Tanana Valley, up to the Yukon, and then north of the Brooks Range. Look for low temperatures 15 to 30 below. The coldest conditions there right along the north slope. Nome should drop below zero, and down to 13 at Meteorologists, while the Aleutians actually come up into the lower 40s and mid 30s for the central areas. And highs for tomorrow, lower 40s, lower to almost mid 40s here, advancing up across Adak and Atka, 41 for St. Paul, lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula. Cold air still in place here, so around 10 for Bristol Bay, below zero north of the Brooks Range, and a little below zero here south of the mountains, but Tanana Valley 5 below to 5 above. Teens for the Susitna Valley over to the Copper River Basin, mid-20s here for the North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula, on down to Kodiak Island, and mid-30s to lower 40s for the southeast coast. And for flying weather tomorrow morning, we've got IFR here, Glacier Bay, Lynn Canal, and over toward the border, improving down along the south coast. And not too bad from the North Gulf Coast, just some marginal VFR lingering into Prince William Sound and toward Portage and Turnagain Arm. Swath of IFR with the snow coming eastward here right down to the western slopes of the western Alaska Range, with marginal conditions right on down into Bristol Bay on the Alaska Peninsula. Marginal there for the northern Bering Sea. Marginal VFR in areas there for the North Slope and Arctic coast, and a bunch of IFR here streaming in a pattern like this with a warm front moving north of the chain, so marginal VFR down to the south. And then for tomorrow afternoon, that pushes the Pribilofs and increases here on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. Marginal VFR out to where the front is in the west there, where it becomes IFR once again. And then this area continues eastward with IFR pushing into the Tanana Valley, extending down into northern Cook Inlet early on, and then shifting eastward, clearing out quite rapidly, becoming VFR for the western Alaska Range, and then marginal VFR Barren Islands, North Gulf Coast, areas IFR over the mountains, and that hanging on here over the northern Panhandle. As far as passes go, Aniktuvik, marginal becoming VFR, same forecast for Adigan, improving throughout the day. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy, starting out marginal, then becoming VFR quite rapidly. Windy, IFR, looks like that'll hold through most of the day until tomorrow evening. Isabel, IFR. Mentasta, VFR, becoming marginal. And for Tanita, IFR there. And for Portage, IFR with a little improvement throughout the day, going marginal. And Chilkoot and White, both marginal VFR. And for the freezing levels here, 2,000 feet there right along Prince of Wales Island. Big push of warm air coming in out west here, 8,000 feet. Haven't seen that one for a while. Into the western Aleutians with 2,000 feet well to the north, and the surface freezing level retreats eastward back toward the Pribilofs. And icing, most of the heavy icing will be out here over the central and north central Bering Sea and back toward Russia, but a big swath of areas of light rime icing, isolated moderate, above about 8,000 feet over the central Aleutians. And then with the moisture coming eastward, could see some areas of icing here, northern Cook Inlet, Copper River Basin, into the Tanana Valley, above about 4,000 feet. And looking at the winds aloft, upper level low in the cold air that's out over the Bering now, that's going to shift eastward to about this position tomorrow afternoon. Northwest jet behind that, about 140 knots, turns northerly over Kodiak Island, and then the jet well to the south of even the Queen Charlotte Islands, so diminishing showers through the Panhandle. Upper level low with a big storm where the center is out to the west a little bit there, and that'll just track due north. 9,000-foot winds, very strong tomorrow. Southwesterlies, 90 to 95 knots right through here in advance of the front, picking up to 50 knots for the eastern Aleutians, 55 knots over the Pribilofs. Increase in the winds streaming up towards St. Lawrence Island. Northwesterlies, 20 to 25 here over the southwest interior, but pretty brisk as you get into Kamishak Bay and across the Barren Islands, up to 60 knots. Mostly light winds over the interior here. Northeast 20 to 25 for the western Arctic coast. 3,000 feet, again, that strong wind condition there, Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands. Lighter winds with less gradient up over the interior areas, and just 15 knots coming across the Panhandle, but out west 50 to 80 knot winds here right up into the northern Bering Sea, advancing eastward 40 knots approaching the southwest coast. And turbulence looking like this, moderate chop, Cook Inlet, over to the Alaska Range, southward, Kamishak Bay, Kodiak Island, lighter turbulence up to the central Alaska Range, then a lot of turbulence coming in out west with all the strong winds. Could be severe across the central Aleutians, including Adak and Atka. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us once again is our good friend Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska. He is here and has been here many times to talk to us about weather satellites and how those can help Alaskans understand our weather, how we can do better detection, keep more people safe from things even like volcanic ash. But today, Eric, you're going to talk to us a little bit more about weather satellites and how that can keep Alaskans safe and protect our property from wildfire, right?
That's right, Dave. Today's topic is where there's smoke, there's fire. And thanks for having us back again to Alaska
Anytime.
Weather. Well, weather satellites have a lot of different instruments on them. It turns out that the electromagnetic spectrum has a lot going on in it, and only one part of that is visible light, what we see.
Right.
Weather satellites, of course, report that. Today's topic is wildfires. There are some people who say that in Alaska in the summertime you don't have severe weather. These people are usually from Oklahoma or somewhere, and F5 tornadoes tend not to occur in Alaska.
Right.
People have also said what we do have in the summer. What is Alaska's severe summer weather can be hydrology,
Right.
flash flood and erosion in the mountains and things like that, and fires, wildfires.
Absolutely.
Those were here in 2004, certainly remember that. We've got an example here from 2014. Now it was a quiet season overall, but in May, down on the Kenai Peninsula, we had a wildfire on the Funny River, and this is a satellite image from a satellite, a polar orbiter that went right over Alaska, and we can see the plume of smoke coming out of that fire on the Kenai, curling down. It's caught in the wind. It goes down toward Kodiak Island, curves around. You can see it circulating around a low pressure system that's in the Gulf of Alaska.
It was a beautiful picture.
Oh my gosh.
Except there was a fire.
There's a fire there. The nice thing is with this satellite image, you can tell where the fire origin is, where the smoke is coming from. And it's a color image. We're looking at the wavelength spectrum of about 0.4 to 0.7 micrometers or microns. That's what the human eye would see. If you were riding on the satellite and looked down, you could see this kind of an image. So that's pretty nice. But it turns out there's more to the electromagnetic spectrum than just visible light. You've heard of infrared, ultraviolet, that kind of thing. If we move into longer wavelengths, let's go to one specifically, 3.7 microns.
Okay, 3.7.
Why worry about that one? Well, we've got an example here. 3.7, it turns out, happens to be very sensitive to a certain temperature range, temperatures where fires burn.
Okay.
And so we've got an example zoomed in a little more from that same Funny River fire down on the Kenai Peninsula, and we can see that you get up into a few hundred degrees Fahrenheit, and that's where the colors are. We can see there on the Funny River fire to the west and to the east, almost a horseshoe shape there, is not only we're seeing where the fire is in a general sense, but specifically where it's the active fire
That is where
front.
it's burning right now.
And it's 3.7 microns is the important temperature there.
Okay.
That's right.
So this is really important to firefighters on the ground, people that are making plans and directing the firefighters on where they need to go and cut the trenches and keep people safe.
You know it. If you want to fight that fire, you got to know where it is. You got to know the leading edge. We've also got a movie loop, nothing quite like animating it in time. You can see the fire spreading out over time with a succession of film or a succession of images. Now this is one channel, 3.7 micron. You know, we looked at that color smoke image before. and that's actually a red, a green, and a blue. That's how you get color imagery. What if you took 3 different wavelengths in the infrared? You went from like 2.2 micron, 1.5 micron, up to 3.7. You mix them together, you get this other kind of color image, which is even a better way to sharply bring out the details of where that leading edge of the fire is.
Okay.
You'll note, though, in the infrared, guess what? We don't see the smoke. That's too bad. And on these movie loops, you can see the clouds go by. These channels can't see through clouds. The lesson is there's no one perfect solution. You got to have the visible, you got to have some of that infrared single 3.7 channel, some of the infrared mixing to help get a different perspective. Another one, we've talked before about a fun channel called the day-night band.
Yes, one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, and in Alaska in the winter, it's great. We've got all this darkness. The day-night band is so sensitive to seeing light. You can see features that otherwise aren't available. Now in Alaska, when you have a forest fire, it tends to be light out all the time. It's our summer. But we can go down south to the Rim Fire in California in 2013. Now, okay, it was in California, not Alaska, but Alaskan crews went down to fight that fire, so we can talk about it here on Alaska Weather. Here we have a 3.7 micron channel shot of the rim fire, again, kind of a horseshoe shape, showing that active fire front down there. And then we'll look again to the day-night band, the visible light, and then you can see how the fire is all bright. You can see the active fire front and actually the city lights over there too. Turns out that the cities, while they're active in a social sense, are not really hot in a fire sense. So they don't show up in the 3.7 micron. They're not hot like a fire is, but the fire in the cities look the same from a visible light perspective. And a fun thing here too is that we can see the smoke plume going north from the rim fire on the day-night band. So if we were ever to have, like in 2004 in Alaska, you get dark at night, we still had an active fire season that year. That was, you know, that really bad year. The day-night band didn't exist then, but if we had fires now in August, we could use it then. The lesson here is weather satellites, they offer many different wavelengths of light. Some are used for different purposes, and some of these we just looked at tonight are especially helpful here in Alaska to find and to track the behavior of these wildfires so the crews can go out there and do their jobs.
Sure, sure. So a satellite toolbox for the firefighting crews and the fire weather forecasters, and it just underlines how important satellites are, especially for Alaska and our mission for the National Weather Service to protect life and property, and also to enhance the national economy. So wonderful stuff there, Eric. And people can look at pictures like this anytime by going to gina.alaska.edu. You'll find images there all around Alaska at various times of the year, and not just about fire weather, but volcanic ash and smoke and anything else you want to check out. They're always beautiful pictures and always interesting to look at no matter what time of the day. Thanks again for joining us, Eric. We appreciate it and welcome you back anytime. For this edition of Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider. See you next time.
Welcome back. So small craft advisories for 25-knot winds there on the south coast, and then winds become lighter as you go north to just south at 10, but seas still running 15 to 17 feet. Southeast 15 for Clarence Strait, south 15 for Stevens Passage, right up through Lynn Canal. Outlook for Wednesday, those light winds continue here over the inside waters. Now just 10 knots for Clarence Strait. Northwest 15 to 20 on the south coast. Westerlies only 15 on the north coast with the seas running 12 to 15 feet. Prince William Sound, light north winds or variable winds tomorrow. North 15, northern Cook Inlet 25 knots south of the Forelands. And almost a storm force northwest wind here coming across the Kamishak Bay area and the Barren Islands. Definitely will see storm force gusts in there and gales out of the west for Kodiak Island. And on Thursday, light variable winds here for the North Gulf Coast. Light winds continue for Cook Inlet and Prince William Sound. West 25, good for small craft advisories there, the Barren Islands and the east side of Kodiak Island. Winds becoming east at 15 for Kamishak Bay. Bristol Bay, west 25, southwesterly gales here on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula turn west at 30 from Cape Sarachef to Castle Cape, and then northwest 35 up towards Sitkinak. Thursday, southwest 40, good gale for the Alaska Peninsula, 17 to 20 foot seas, minimum gales for Bristol Bay out of the southwest, and 30 knots from Sitkinak to Castle Cape. Eastern Aleutians tomorrow, southwest winds 35 to 45 knots, and then we've got storm force southerlies here coming into the central Aleutians, southwest 60, turns west at 60 there with really high seas out to the west. And then that calms down a little on Thursday. Southwest 40 here for the western zone, and then 30 to 45 knots for Adak and Atka, and 40 to 45 knots here right across the eastern Aleutians, where it turns more southwest here around Unalaska Island. And southeast 30 knots, increasing to 30 knots for the southwest coast. Northeast 25 for St. Lawrence Island, 45 knots southerlies coming into the northern Bering Sea. Southwest 40 for Pribilofs. Those pick up to 45 knots out through this area, including St. Lawrence Island. Big increase in the wind. Southwest 40 there into the southwest coast, 18 to 20 foot seas. Light northerly winds for the central and east side. Northeast pick up to 20 to 30 knots, and even brisk wind or small craft advisories down toward the Bering Strait. And then storm force winds show up here east, 50 knots there from Wales to Cape Thompson, and 45 knots. Big increase on the east side of the Arctic coast. Brisk wind advisories the central coast, remaining light on the east side. And for tonight again, snow over the interior here, kind of light and intermittent out east, but becomes heavier, more continuous with this system pushing eastward. Occasional periods of light snow, Prince William Sound, south central Alaska. Another surge of moisture for the Panhandle, and that next big storm spreads warm air, moisture, and a lot of wind up toward the southwest coast, the Pribilofs, back down toward the Aleutians. Snow moves eastward here, starting to clear out to the west, and then that whole mess shifts inland on Thursday with a big surge of warm air coming up, so a lot of mixed precipitation, gusty, strong winds, blowing snow there from the Koyukuk Valley all the way out to the northwest coast, and better conditions, though, for the Panhandle. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, sustaining Alaska's pipeline and its operations today and into the future.